All right, welcome again, everyone. We are here for Chaitra Kulkarni's dissertation defense. And Chaitra is a PhD candidate in her third year in the doctoral program here at Texas Tech University. The title of her presentation, her dissertation, is Building a Shared Terminology, a Mixed Methods Approach to Interdisciplinary Collaboration in Cyberinfrastructure Projects. Her research is about studying teams that are composed of members from different disciplines, especially those working on cyber infrastructure projects. Chaitra received her bachelor's degree in computer science engineering from India and her master's degree in communication studies from the College of Media and Communication here at Texas Tech. After finishing her PhD in media and communication, she will join Amazon Web Services, AWS company in Seattle this August, in less than 2 months. So today, this presentation is being recorded and will be posted on the Innovation Diffusion Lab's YouTube channel. Chaitra will present her research for about 30 minutes or so. Then we will take questions from the audience for another 15 to 20 minutes. Once there is a natural pause, we will wrap up the public portion of the defense. Guests and visitors can drop off Zoom at that point, and then Chaitra will meet with her committee for more questions and answers. So with that, I would now turn your attention to Chaitra and her presentation. Chaitra.
Thank you, Dr. Key. Hi, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for being here. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen with you so you can see my PowerPoint. Okay, perfect. I hope you all see it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start my presentation. So the title of my presentation is Building a Shared Terminology, a Mixed Methods Approach to Interdisciplinary Collaboration in Cyber Infrastructure Projects. Just to give you an overview, I'll start with the introduction of this study, then talk about the literature review, theoretical framework, talk about why mixed methods research, methodology, qualitative research of my dissertation, the quantitative part, discussion, highlight a few strategies, and then talk about conclusion. All right, so Houston, we have had a problem. This was the message that was intercepted from Apollo 13 spacecraft on April 13, 1970. When the Apollo 13 spacecraft was halfway on the journey to the Earth, one of the 2 oxygen tanks of the spacecraft exploded. Within 3 hours, all of the oxygen sources were depleted, making this a critical situation, needing a solution with no errors. NASA assembled a team of engineers who specialized in different areas, and they came up with an innovative solution, making this critical situation into one of the legendary examples of successful teamwork. This example highlights the importance of not only teamwork, but also how people from diverse disciplines come together for finding innovative solutions. With the increasing complexity of problems, cross-disciplinary research is needed to tackle problems that are not solvable by a single discipline. In this study, I talk about interdisciplinary collaboration that allows for collaborating methodologies and research styles of different disciplines, helping them achieve advanced scientific research. Federal funding institutions such as NSF and NIH have recognized the importance of funding projects that are interdisciplinary in nature and how they can support the steady growth of science and advanced research computing. Cyber infrastructure CEI projects usually consist of diverse team members across various disciplines, and therefore understanding factors that can influence such collaboration is crucial and one of the lesser explored areas in communication. So the next section is literature review. I know I keep talking about big terms like interdisciplinary collaboration and cyber infrastructure, so let's talk more about these. What is interdisciplinary collaboration? Interdisciplinary collaboration falls under the umbrella term cross-disciplinary collaboration, and interdisciplinary collaboration is the systematic integration of ideas where collaborators from different disciplines come together to combine their methodologies and concepts, thereby leading to integrative analysis. Because of the obvious advantage of interdisciplinary collaboration, team science researchers, that is people who study teams and other cross-disciplinary collaborations, have extensively studied such collaboration by looking at various teamwork factors that can impact a collaborative team's success, which was the goal of my study too. Now let's talk about cyber infrastructure. So cyber infrastructure, according to its definition, consists of systems, data and information management, advanced instruments, visualization environments, people, all linked together by software and advanced network to improve scholarly productivity and enable knowledge breakthroughs and discoveries that are not otherwise possible. With this definition, something complicated like a supercomputer needing huge data centers must have come to your mind, which is right. But CI can also be something as simple as something you use in your everyday life, like Google Documents or Zoom meetings, where we are all connected by internet. This is also called cyberinfrastructure. And CI projects usually have complex networks of technologies and people that work together at all times across institutions and geographical boundaries. So let's talk about interdisciplinary collaboration and teamwork in CI projects. Interdisciplinary teams need to consider the complexities of collaborating across disciplines, such as team conflict resolution, meeting productivity, project initiation, personnel turnover, and other time constraints that can pose as potential challenges to run CI projects. In such cases, establishing clear collaboration plans through careful analysis of team and its goal can be really helpful. Thinking about collaboration challenges in CI project, it becomes important to explore and understand teamwork factors that can either accelerate or hinder collaboration process in CI projects. So what are these teamwork factors? Let's talk about collaborative teamwork and what that is first. So according to the definition, collaborative teamwork is a process by which teams navigate differing knowledge, experience, or resources to coordinate their action toward accomplishing a common task or goal. This study uses the Temkin-Greener et al.'s model of interdisciplinary teamwork processes that was originally tested in long-term care setting in HealthCom, and it replicates this for the CI project in ARCOM area that I'm currently looking at. The factors included in this model are leadership, which is influence of team members' leadership style on the overall team performance, conflict management, which is the capacity of team and its members to manage conflict successfully, producing positive results. Communication is communication competencies of team members to interact effectively. Coordination is the ability of team members to create space for coordination of resources across diverse team members and geographical boundaries. Team cohesion is operationalized as team members having feelings of shared identity, common goals, and feeling of belongingness. And then team effectiveness or team performance is how well an interdisciplinary team in CI projects can perform with or without the influence of various teamwork factors. And these are all the factors I explore in my quantitative model. Some other concepts that I wanted to study with this dissertation are power differentials. The first one is kind of thinking about what power differentials exist in CI interdisciplinary teams. And power differences are basically inequality in opportunities and voices being heard. And these differences can exist in obviously any team, but especially interdisciplinary teams where there might be disciplinary hierarchies where one discipline is considered, higher than the other, along with other demographic differences such as gender, race, etc. Such differences have not been explored thoroughly in the CI project teams and can be a useful insight for future interdisciplinary project collaborators as well. So another concept that I did want to study with this dissertation was collaborative and technological readiness, because it's kind of important to look at when you're thinking about technologies as well. So collaboration readiness is willingness of people to participate in collaborative work, integrate resources and knowledge from different members, and then have supporting infrastructure for it. All these conditions can obviously make collaboration challenging, and especially if there are not strong external motivator factors for individuals to engage in such. Technological readiness, on the other hand, is willingness and ability of team members to adopt and use technologies that can help teams communicate and coordinate better, leading to successful collaboration outcome. So technological readiness is especially important to consider in CI teams who might be geographically distributed at all times. All right, so now that we're done with the literature review, let's look at the theoretical framework that I used for this study. In this dissertation, I've mainly looked at two different theories and pulled concepts from these that provide theoretical framework for my overall study. The first one is the diffusion of innovations theory, and this theory was introduced by communication scholar Everett Rogers, who explains diffusion as the process through which an innovation is communicated through certain channels over time among the members of a social system. Although this theory is extensive and I could talk about it forever, I quickly wanted to introduce the innovation decision process, which will come up later in my discussion section. And this consists of 5 stages: knowledge gathering about the innovation, persuasion, decision-making, whether to adopt an innovation or not, implementation, which is putting innovation to use, and then confirmation, where adoption decision is confirmed. Another important concept from this theory that is relevant in my dissertation are the 8 attributes of innovation that can potentially impact an individual's decision-making or adoption behavior. These attributes are voluntariness, relative advantage, image, compatibility, ease of use, trialability, benefit, and measurability. These all will come in my analysis later, so I'll skip on the definitions for now. These attributes are inherited or displayed by any innovation and can feed into the adoption decision and are further explored in my analysis as well. The second theory that I look at in this dissertation is sociomateriality theory, which has a basic premise that social, that is humans, and material, that is technologies, are entangled in a way that they are not distinguishable anymore. For example, human brain and robot hands can be thought of as a socio-material situation. One concept from this theory is socio-technical systems that are a mix of social interaction of members in organization and technologies they use to communicate or do these interactions. CI projects, therefore, can be considered as socio-technical systems that are a mix of humans and technologies working in constant feedback loop, where sometimes making distinction between them becomes impossible. Moving on, let's talk about why do a mixed methods research. Mixed methods research allows for answering questions about topics that are far too complex to be figured out by a single method, and one such topic being interdisciplinary collaboration in CI projects. Such design allows for triangulation of data and methods, developing a comprehensive understanding of any phenomenon. In this dissertation, a mix of quantitative online surveys and qualitative in-depth semi-structured interviews was utilized to collect data concurrently, and later these data sets were analyzed together. Let's talk about my methodology. And as mentioned previously, a mix of quantitative and qualitative methods was used in this study. For the quantitative data collection, an online Qualtrics interview was distributed to participants who were recruited through emails to high-performance computing centers and other CI user lists, such as Campus Research Consortium and Coalition for Academic Scientific Computation. Participants were recruited through a mix of purposive and convenience sampling, and the survey completion took about 15 to 20 minutes, and participants who were interested entered a random pool of Amazon gift cards. A total of 119 responses were collected, including pilot data and incomplete responses, but the final analysis was done with 66 responses, out of which 57.8% participants were Caucasian, while others identified either as Asian or Pacific Islander, African Americans, Hispanic, and South Asians. And then 58.7% of those reported to be males, 23.4% participants self-identified as females, while 17.9% either identified as non-binary or didn't wish to answer. Most participants were between the ages of 25 to 39 years, residing in 25 different states all across the US. For the qualitative portion of this study, participants were recruited for in-depth semi-structured interviews via emails and referrals, making it a mix of purposive and snowball sampling. The average length of interviews was about 57 minutes, with the longest one lasting for about 1 hour, 30 minutes. Interview participants again entered a random pool for gift cards. A total of 20 interviews were conducted in the months of March, April, and May of 2023. 76.2% participants were between the age group of 30 to 49 years. 14 participants reported to be Caucasian, and others reported either to be Latino, Asian, or Pacific Islander. Out of 20 participants, 11 reported themselves to be male, 8 females, and then 2 participants identified as non-binary. And these participants spanned from 14 different states all across the US. So let's talk about the quantitative portion of this study. On the left, you can see my proposed model with variable and relationships, and here are my hypotheses and research questions. Each one states that leadership is positively associated with team performance within interdisciplinary teams. H2 is leadership is positively associated with conflict management. H3 is conflict management is positively associated with interdisciplinary teams performance. H4 is communication is positively associated with teams performance in interdisciplinary teams. RQ1 asks, how is communication associated with team cohesion for interdisciplinary collaborative teams? RQ2, how does team coordination associate with interdisciplinary teams performance? H5, team cohesion is positively related to interdisciplinary teams performance. And then RQ3 is, how is leadership associated with team cohesion within interdisciplinary teams? Before talking about the model, let's talk about the reliability statistics for each scale. From both of these tables here, you can see that Cronbach's alpha, or the reliability statistics for each of the teamwork constructs, and then the innovation attributes are really good, usually above 0.8. And of course, the low loading items were deleted for being able to achieve such unidimensionality of constructs, which also helped increase the reliability of each scale, but these scales were found to be reliable in this model. So for the quantitative part, I ran a structural equation modeling or SEM to simultaneously test all my hypothesized relationship in this causal model. And because I had limited number of responses, I had to split the model into two for being able to find statistically significant results. So for model one, I broke it down into to 4 variables: leadership, conflict management, team cohesion, and team performance. So the model fit statistics for model 1 indicated that the measurement model was a mediocre fit with chi-square of 586.11, degrees of freedom 270 with a p less than 0.001. The RMSEA was 0.13, SRMR 0.11, CFI and TLI values were 0.77 and 0.74. Usually the CFI and TLI values are expected to be above 0.8, and then RMSEA less than 0.08. So this was a mediocre fit model, but regardless, all factor loadings were in expected direction of acceptable magnitude and were statistically significant. For model 2, it consisted of 4 variables: communication, coordination, team cohesion, and team performance. And this model suggested that it had a chi-square value of 551.28, degrees of freedom 225, RMSEA 0.15, root mean square, SRMR 0.11, CFI and TLI 0.77 and 0.74, which indicated that this model was not a good fit because of the limited number of responses. After running these 2 models, the following results were found. H1 hypothesized that the relationship is positively associated with the team's performance, which was not supported, and I found a beta of negative 0.27 at p.61. Hypothesis 2 was supported with a beta of 0.79 at p less than 0.001, which means that leadership is positively associated with conflict management for interdisciplinary teams. Hypothesis 3 was not found to be statistically significant and therefore was not supported. H4 hypothesized that communication is positively associated with team performance in interdisciplinary teams, and this hypothesis was not supported. RQ1 wanted to explore the association between communication and team cohesion for interdisciplinary collaborative teams in CI projects, and the SEM model results found that it was positively correlated with a beta of 0.97 at p less than 0.001, and it was statistically significant. RQ2 related to the association between team coordination and team performance, but RQ2 did not find statistically significant correlation. Hypothesis 5 posited that team cohesion is positively related to interdisciplinary teams' performance, and this hypothesis was not supported. RQ3 asked if leadership was associated with team cohesion in some way within interdisciplinary teams, and the SEM analysis found that leadership was in fact positively correlated with team cohesion with a beta of 0.78 at p less than 0.001. So some hypotheses and relationships were supported and confirmed from this SEM analysis, but others probably would need more statistical power to confirm these relationships. All right, so now moving on to the qualitative portion of this study. So here are my research questions for the qualitative section. RQ4 asks what power differentials exist in collaborative interdisciplinary teams in CI projects. RQ5A is what themes were identified for collaboration readiness. RQ5B, what is the current state of technological readiness in interdisciplinary teams working on CI projects. RQ6 is how do innovation attributes explain interdisciplinary collaboration adoption in CI projects. RQ7 is about how do humans and technologies in CI project influence one another and interdisciplinary collaboration decisions. RQ8 is how does adoption of interdisciplinary collaboration happen in a socio-technical system such as CI projects. So before we move on to the results section, let's talk about how this analysis was conducted. A method called thematic analysis was utilized when analyzing these 20 interviews. As mentioned by qualitative researchers, the thematic analysis is a great technique to use when the researcher's goal is to understand participants' experiences, thoughts, or behaviors across a data set, which was a perfect approach for my study as well. The goal was to find themes from interviews for which I used Owens's criteria to code for recurrence, repetition, and forcefulness. And the codes were created using the NVivo software, which helped me strategically organize my codes and later merge them into proper themes. The codes were obviously analyzed and reanalyzed to make sure they fit into proper themes. And the themes were generated using concepts from the two theories that I talked about before, the diffusion of innovations and social materiality theory. Okay, so the first one that I want to talk about is power differentials and what themes I found for this. So the first theme that I found is the dark side of hierarchy, disciplinary power differentials. Interview participants talk about how hierarchies exist in academia based on disciplines and how some disciplines are perceived to be more superior than others. To highlight this, a technologist from California said that STEM fields are at the top of hierarchy, while public education, public health, and social welfare are towards the bottom. The second theme that was found was called exclusionary behaviors, demographic power differentials. A few participants talked about how certain individuals may be underrepresented or given lesser opportunities to be a part of the project because of their demographic background. And to emphasize this, an NSF project PI from California who self-identified as a woman of color said that she herself has experienced such subgroup exclusionary behaviors in academia. On the positive side of power differentials, a technologist from California said that projects do need to have someone who's in charge to keep everybody on track, and having someone in charge is not a bad thing. And with the right kind of leaders, leading team can help promote a sense of belongingness within team members. So power differentials can be used for the positive. The next research questions looks at collaboration readiness and the themes that were identified for this. The first theme is, do I really need to collaborate? Disciplinary readiness for cross-disciplinary collaboration. An important point was brought up by participants when they said that certain disciplines or job roles are more inclined to collaborate outside their own discipline than others, and talking about how computer scientists are not willing to collaborate as much outside their field as much as computational scientists who come from different science background are willing to participate was brought up by a technologist from California. And disciplines who also realize that they don't necessarily have what they need in their domain to solve problems are more willing to branch out was also found to be a thing when thinking about the disciplinary collaboration decisions. The second theme is collaboration is not for everyone, hesitation to collaborate. Participants said that a lot of collaboration willingness is based on individual personality, and if people feel like they're not going to be good at something, they'll wail against it, said this California consultant. So recognizing people who are not equipped to do interdisciplinary research is also important for the overall success of the project. The third theme that was found is called where are the incentives, lack of collaboration motivation from academia. The sentiment of having institutional barriers and lacking incentives to collaborate outside their discipline was echoed by many participants. They talked about the academic structure and processes that were operated in a way where researchers struggled to get recognized within their field when they were getting involved with interdisciplinary collaboration and projects, said a professor from Virginia. Since we have recognized these collaboration themes, it also becomes important to look at what collaboration challenges exist for interdisciplinary collaborators. The first challenge, as recognized by participants, was that collaborators don't always understand the importance of establishing shared vocabulary and should come together to make sense of overloading terms that may mean one thing in one field and another in the other field. The second challenge is that it can be difficult for people to collaborate across job profiles. And a CI liaison from Arizona gave example of an institution where they were very strict about only faculty doing research. And so it was difficult for them to collaborate with staff and pay them through grants. That also posed as an external challenge. Another challenge was academic hierarchies, which came up previously as well when I was talking about it. A CI consultant from California said that academia is one of the most hierarchical institutions he has ever seen, and for some, collaborating across their levels can be uncomfortable. Individuals who also lack sufficient curiosity and curiosity to get excited about idea of doing interdisciplinary collaboration because it is extra work can pose as a challenge. And this CI consultant said that in such collaborations, you have to go above and beyond what you know and co-create solutions together, which can also be another challenge for some people. Lastly, academic barriers such as lack of clarity on credit and acknowledgement can pose a threat for researchers' motivation for interdisciplinary collaboration. And a CI liaison from California said that nobody understands your work if you are doing interdisciplinary projects, which can be a demotivating factor for some people. All right, so in terms of technological readiness, a participant who is a CI technologist said that his job needs him to adopt new technologies since it is his job to provide solutions. So he needs to adopt technologies first, making him an early adopter. A CI professional operationalized technological readiness with social readiness, and giving example of her own team, she said that if your team is not going to adopt something such as new tools, it does not matter how much you want to promote them, they're not going to adopt it, saying that a lot of team members' behavior of technological adoption is based on how their team members react to a certain technology. An interesting observation about human behavior was made by this technologist from New York when he said that people are excited to adopt something, including new technologies, if they find it on their own. A CI liaison also emphasized the point of social readiness and how collaborations are successful when everyone is on same level of technological readiness. She said that when she works with the team, she always makes sure to know who is at the lowest technological readiness level and to bring them up to speed with all the technology that they are using in their projects. Participants also talked about how people are more ready to adopt technologies such as Zoom, Google Docs, and Canvas since the beginning of COVID-19 pandemic, and adopting these technologies has now become the lowest common denominator. In this next section, I'll talk about a few innovation attributes that were recognized as motivating factors for individuals to engage in and adopt interdisciplinary collaboration in CI projects. The first attribute was called image, and one participant talked about how him being engaged in interdisciplinary collaboration and research made him seem cool in front of his colleagues. The second one is compatibility, which is how compatible interdisciplinary collaboration adoption is with your job or research. And a CI educator from Ohio said that nowadays a lot of jobs in CI realm need you to be open to interdisciplinary work. It's kind of assumed that you'll be able to do this. Ease of implementation and benefit factors tie into compatibility in a sense that if you're interested in opening a collaboration with someone and you know this person is open to a lot of other things, they make it easier to work with them and adopt this interdisciplinary collaboration, said a technologist from New York. The fifth attribute is called voluntariness, and an NSF project PS said that interdisciplinary collaboration is perceived to be 100% voluntary since you have to go above and beyond of what is expected from you. So such individuals are also more open to dealing with challenges that come with such collaborations. And lastly, it was found that innovation attributes of compatibility, benefit, ease of use, or implementation stood out when thinking about adoption of interdisciplinary collaborations in CI projects. A technologist said that for interdisciplinary collaboration to be truly interdisciplinary, the social scientists and the hard science disciplinary scientists need to feedback on each other's knowledge and feed all these into digital processes, that is cyberinfrastructure, making both the human and technological component of CI irreplaceable. Another participant who is a CI educator said that in CI area, it has become more and more accepted that you will be able to do this kind of research and probably use computational tools. So people are less nervous about adopting new tools and technologies in this day and age, making them more compatible and easy to use in such interdisciplinary CI projects. All right, lastly, I want to talk about how humans and technologies in CI projects influence one another from a socio-materiality theory lens. An engineer from Minnesota said that technology is built to serve the needs of an individual, and vice versa is true, but lesser, putting forth his opinion that humans have more influence on technologies. A technologist from California said that we are the ones who develop technology, and the technologies expand our thinking, making us more ambitious in a sense. Another participant talked about feedback loop between humans and technologies that make technological process possible and advanced science. So there's basically, there's a lot of feedback going between humans and technologies in CI. Again, talking about the dependency between humans and technologies, they have on each other. A CI professional from Maine said that humans are building technologies, which is definitely influencing how we're thinking about things and structuring ideas and then communicating things around it. So these quotes all highlight the fact that CI has developed to a stage where humans and technologies are in constant feedback loop with one another, serving on each other's capabilities at all times. All right, so let's see now how these findings tie together in the discussion section. The first high-level finding I found in this study is the importance of the leadership variable for interdisciplinary team and its performance. Leadership was found to be the main predicting factor for teams' conflict management and cohesion, but from my quantitative model, I could not confirm the relationship between leadership and team performance, which is where my interviews came in, where they talked about how a leader who can pull people together, can establish a tone for them, can really help with overall team's performance. So leaders who inculcate feelings of belongingness among members may have teams that perform well and show more effectiveness. Another important thing that came up in my study was that interdisciplinary team members need to have communication competencies such as active listening, ability to have open conversations, and then creating shared vocabulary. They also talked about how having such feelings of belongingness can help reduce communication barriers in CI projects. And then the third thing that came up was the factors of compatibility, image, ease of implementation, benefit, and voluntariness from the DOI theory, and how they were found to be strong motivating factors for individuals to adopt interdisciplinary collaborations. Another interesting thing that I found was that participants who found interdisciplinary collaboration easy to engage in showed more voluntariness to engage in such CI project eventually at a later date, showing that the attributes can correlate and can exist at the same time for people to be motivated to engage in such collaborations. A few other things that I want to talk about is contributions to theory and practice. So in terms of contribution to theory, this study provides an empirical support to socio-materiality theory by exploring both human and technological side of CI projects and then finding how codependent they are. The diffusion of innovations theory assumes a linear adoption process for any innovation. And in my study, when looking at interdisciplinary collaboration in CI projects, I found that various factors, including power differences, experience levels, academic barriers, and knowledge practice gaps, make this collaboration hardly linear. So it kind of helped expand this study in a way. Third, my study also hinted at links between the diffusion of innovations theory and socio-materiality theory, since the innovation attributes can play a role in explaining technological affordances and how that can influence people's decision-making behaviors. In terms of contributions to practice, this study replicated team process model from HealthCom to OrgCom while looking at CI projects specifically. Additionally, I also helped introduce new skills that showed high reliability, making it a possibility for future quantitative researchers to look into this research as well. And I also highlighted a few strategies for collaboration for future interdisciplinary collaborators that I'm going to talk about in just a minute. And obviously, this study is not without its limitations. The first one is that I had limited survey responses, which is 66, which were statistical power for testing my relationships. And then I had to break down my model into two different models. There was also an unequal distribution of males and females for my survey. And the third thing was that low loading items were eliminated from each of my variables, so some responses were lost in the process. For interviews, 35% of participants reported to be residing in California, which I initially did not anticipate. So the geographical distribution was kind of skewed a little, but then the rest of the participants were from 13 different states. Also, the majority of my participants, which is about 14 participants, reported to be Caucasian in interviews, which I was hoping to spread out a little more because I wanted more observations and experiences on power differentials in interdisciplinary CI teams. All right, before we move on to strategies, a few areas for future research that I recognize from this study. The first one is that there is a potential to further look into unexplored innovation attributes of trialability, which was thought to be interesting because it was conceptually interpreted differently by my interview participants, and it can also be looked at through mixed methods research. The innovation attribute of relative advantage was seen as a conceptual advantage in interdisciplinary CI teams by some participants, and a study that can help operationalize what relative advantage means for interdisciplinary collaborations can help find and expand DOI theory further. A future study can be carried out to expand the quantitative model for including power dynamics in teamwork, and interview participant hinted at a possible connection between leadership and power differences, which would be interesting to explore again through a mixed methods approach. Before we move on to the conclusion, I quickly wanted to talk about a few strategies which I thought was super interesting that came into light through the interviews. So the first strategy that can help collaborators grow and sustain successful interdisciplinary collaboration in CI projects was providing platform to researchers for self-discovery of projects. So researchers and collaborators who are able to discover projects through accessible and browsable data may be more willing to participate in interdisciplinary collaboration projects, because if people find something on their own, they're more likely to adopt it and explore it a little further. The second one was following funding model that can make interdisciplinary collaboration successful. So funding models can help provide a clear document in terms of timeline and resources to members or teams who are more interested in such collaborations. Some institutes do have programs where they give like a predetermined amount of money to its researchers, and then they can go and collaborate and pool their resources together to engage in such interdisciplinary projects further. The third one is encourage collaborators to establish shared terminology and build long-lasting interpersonal relationships. A participant said that with more heterogeneous teams, it becomes more important to be able to speak and communicate well with others. So collaborators should be able to display communication competencies in terms of active listening, understanding and asking clarifying questions to create a shared vocabulary or terminology. And then the fourth strategy that I found was interdisciplinary collaboration is a constant loop of learn, implement, teach, and learn. Mentorship is something that was found to be important for new researchers or researchers who were looking to collaborate across disciplines. So training and mentorship was important in this part. In addition to that, current collaborators should always strive to make meaningful contributions to project, learn and relearn during such process and collaborations. And lastly, the conclusion. In conclusion, although interdisciplinary collaboration can be challenging due to limited resources, time constraints, competing institutional demands, insufficient training, and disciplinary boundaries, some strategies laid out by Montero and Keating have also corroborated with my study to have open conversation about work demands, styles, deliverables, and common goals, create a collaboration plan, provide avenues for discovering projects, and then having intentional efforts from federal funding institutions to motivate people across various disciplines to collaborate. Additionally, understanding that interdisciplinary CI project teams differ from each other in terms of members, timeline, knowledge gaps, experience, and previous collaboration, as well as decision-making processes for adoption is becoming more and more crucial. Future collaborators who are looking to expand beyond their disciplinary boundaries should have the curiosity and excitement to learn and find something new, have communication skills to share their knowledge with other members, and then show potential of creating new knowledge by synergistically adding to the knowledge from other disciplinary team members. Being able to navigate communication despite disciplinary boundaries and ability to build shared terminology can make interdisciplinary collaboration in CI projects successful. Thank you. I'll take questions now.
All right, thank you, Chaitra, for your presentation. Now I would like to ask the audience to turn on their cameras, and we can take questions from the audience. Who would like to start? Questions from the audience.
Chaitra, you already know my answer because my question, because I say this at every single defense. But what was your favorite thing that you learned from this whole dissertation process?
Excellent question, and I did know, so thank you for the heads up. I'm gonna give you two different answers. So the first one, what was my favorite thing that I learned from this study? The favorite thing was that when I first started this study, I knew this was an important topic, but until I started interviewing my participants, I didn't know how relevant it was in the CI community and how much excited they got when they were actually like doing their interviews, making me feel so much better about my topic and, providing for further research opportunities and ideas for me as well. So that was first. And the second one, what I learned personally, a professor once said to me when I was just starting my PhD that PhD is more of a marathon and not a sprint. And this is what I learned in the process as I actually experienced it. So I'm glad I kept pushing myself and took it as a marathon, and here we are today. So that was the favorite thing I learned about the PhD process as well. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and great job.
Thank you.
Okay, Mahidi has a question.
Yeah, thank you. Congratulations, Chaitra, for your wonderful presentations. I have a questions like that. What will be the biggest contribution of your PhD to the CI community?
Excellent question. And I was thinking about it. So Dr. Key and I were talking about it. And I think the strategies that came out of the interviews are something that I hope to report to, NSF or whoever's in charge of, helping people collaborate more across disciplines and things like that. So obviously, like finding a way to give back to my participants who were amazing and so much involved in my interviews. So I think some strategies that I found to overcome the collaboration challenges and then find a way to make it work despite the academic barriers that I talked about might be something that I really want to do. I just need to find a way to get to NSF or whoever is at the top to implement it in some way. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one, Chaitra. First of all, wonderful job as always. So I've heard you present several different times about cyber infrastructure, and it's so complex, and you get it, and I'm still trying to get there. But are there some ways that what you talked about, especially with like teamwork strategies, you see this being applied in other disciplines outside of cyber infrastructure? Maybe thinking about like what you're going to do in your job, all those good things.
Yes, excellent question. So I've actually worked on Vidura project, which is kind of like healthcare, not really, it still has cyber infrastructure component to it, because like I said, cyber infrastructure is everywhere. So we are currently on a project together, right? And we are using the Google document. So we are cyber infrastructure users because we are all connected through internet and network. So it's everywhere. You just have to, like go on and find where it is and try to make sense of it. But yeah, like I was saying, I was involved in this Vidura project where we were social scientists, and then there were computer engineers and then practitioners from the medical field as well, where we came together and like collaborated on different things. So that was kind of one of the practical examples I wanted to give about like how interdisciplinary collaboration happens. Not technically outside of CI, but another example of CI. And in my job, great question. So I'll give you talk back about the example that when I was doing my internship, because my job is going to be similar to that. We actually dealt with these engineers and product managers and other people who did not understand much about, like writing documents and making sense of technologies and words in lay terms, which we kind of help interpret them as well. So that was a great way of understanding each other's vocabulary and trying to make sense of what they actually meant by data, what they actually meant by projection. Like it can mean multiple different things in multiple disciplines. So I'm kind of looking forward to actually implement that in my job as well someday. So thank you. Does that answer your question? All right, excellent. I'm just going to say thank you to everyone who said great job on the chat. So just saying it here.
Chaitra, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
Okay. So last night I had a dream of you sending an email with a picture of a big rocket and asking everybody about your, like, you know, our feedback about your dissertation. And then woke up and then came to your defense. But like, both you and I worked on Science Gateway projects. But like currently, like we're working on a few different papers. But one of the biggest things that right now I kind of realize is that I have very limited exposure to Science Gateway users. It's like I'm trying to write a book about history, but I don't have access to artifacts. Right? I don't have access to ancient people's experience. And that kind of, I think right now kind of hinders me from pulling good insights out of data. So like, I don't know if you encounter similar experience and how did you deal with that limited experience with Science Gateway users or limited experience mingling or dealing with people who do interdisciplinary studies.
I'm so glad you asked that question, Bruce, because that was such a big thing when I first started this project. I could not find the participants I wanted, like with the experience of, interdisciplinary collaboration, who were CI users for my survey. And I had really hard time trying to like navigate around it. I literally reached out to 25 different institutions, their HPC centers. The lists that had like multiple CI users on them, I reached out to them as well. So about 25 to 30 within 2-3 months that I was recruiting. And I still ended up with below 100 participants, which was really like defeating for me. So I honestly did not know where to go and how to find them. I know they're out there, but it will just take more efforts to kind of like dig deeper into it and, find the proper kind of participant, just because even for you, you're looking at Science Gateway users. I was looking at CI users who are all of us, but also who have been engaged in interdisciplinary collaboration, which again makes it a subgroup of the participants I was looking for. So if you're thinking about that for your dissertation or something, I started recruiting kind of a little later in my dissertation process, but you can start looking at it from before and, explore different avenues to recruit these participants. But yeah, it can be difficult if your dissertation topic is super niche. So you just have to find ways to get through it. I don't know if I answered your question well, but this is what my experience was when I was recruiting my own participants.
Yes, it definitely helps me to kind of think through one of the biggest stumbling blocks that I'm encountering right now. But thank you very much, and great job on the defense.
Thanks.
We have time for more questions.
Chaitra, hi, I have a question.
Go ahead, Chrissy.
Hi, first of all, congratulations. I know this is no easy feat and you handled yourself very well. I'm very glad to see you doing this work. I think it's important to fill in those gaps. My question comes from what's next. So how the skills that you've learned in this process, we know the dissertation process, you learn skills you don't anticipate learning on your way in the door, on your way out the door, possibly. What type of skills did you learn during this process that you think are going to be able to help you in a future role, whether corporate, academia? What type of skills can you carry with you and use in other places?
Yeah, excellent question. So the first thing I learned is not to give up, which is super basic, but also like you need to keep reminding yourself, because like I said, I was really struggling with my survey, not as much with interview participants, because like I really had to like, make people stop. Like I don't want more interviews because I'm already doing mixed methods research. But for my survey, I really had a hard time to kind of like recruit people, and at a point I was talking to Dr. Key and I'm like, I'm just done. I don't want to do this anymore. But he kept me pushing, I kept pushing myself. So that is something that I learned. Another one is to keep knocking on doors. So kind of like goes with the never give up kind of thing. So I had to, reach out to multiple people, multiple institutions, multiple avenues to be able to conduct my dissertation. And I'm super, super thankful to my both survey and interview participants that they were so generous with their experiences and, sharing stuff with me. So that really helped me. The third one is kind of comes from my own study that I did, understanding about teamwork and how it can be difficult for people to, it's obvious for people when they say data who are computer scientists, they know what they mean. But as someone from humanities or social sciences, we might interpret data in a different way, right? So you have to make those intentional conversations and, explain what you mean by data, and then go from there, kind of build that strategy or whatever plan together. So these are a few things. I could go on forever, but I think I should probably stop. But I hope that answered your question.
What about the methodology part? A lot of the times people leave leave their dissertation work and then they're like, okay, I'm so finished with statistics and methodology. Little do they know that they really enjoyed that and they may want to use that in another space. What did you enjoy the most about your quest in methodology for this? Like what made you choose your mixed methods, or how would this study look different as a just purely qualitative? What did you kind of glean from that, and what can you use from your methodology knowledge to enhance your future?
Right. Yeah. So I always wanted to do mixed methods research. I didn't really know until I started why I wanted to do it, until I started getting survey responses, and then from that I created modified my questionnaire for interviews a little bit, which is where I found the gap that my survey participants can only tell me so much about teamwork factors. Like they did say leadership was important, but how, why? That is something that I found through my interviews, and that is what helped me, kind of fill those gaps about, like I said, how and why this certain factor is important. So my survey could have only given me like statistical, so I see this is statistically significant. I feel like it's going to be, relevant everywhere that I go, every other situation. But the why question still remains. So this is where, my interviews helped expand on whatever results I found from the study, and vice versa too. Like I might have found something that was important in interviews, which I did. And then I went back to my quantitative results to see if I found something like that here as well. So it always helps to, get an overall idea of what your findings were, if you keep looking at the two different methodologies. So yeah, that was interesting, and I would love to keep doing mixed methods research because it's super fun. Yeah.
More questions? All right, I think there's then a natural pause now. Thank you, audience members, for your questions and attention. Now we can wrap up the public portion of the defense, and guests and visitors can drop off Zoom. Thank you very much for coming, and we really appreciate your time.